So to start with, I'm actually just quite interested in hearing about your own story of motherhood and how, because I know that that's really shaped your business and your sort of passion and your drive. So do you want to tell me a little bit about what happened when you became a mother?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is changed my whole life. It's, you know, the trajectory of my life was just blown apart by motherhood. You know, I just think like every kind of mum, I spent 9 months. I have 2 boys, but at least with my first one, I spent 9 months planning for the birth and, you know, putting all my time and energy into really trying to get in the right headspace. I always knew I wanted to try and have a home birth, so that was pretty, you know, nobody I knew had one. My family were all like, what are you doing? You know, it's wild, it's a bit crazy. So I really was trying to get in the right mental space for that. So I ended up having 2 amazing home births. You know, they were just a beautiful birth experience. But what happens is you have a private midwife. So she's in your home, you know, for the birth, and then she stays for a couple of hours after, and then she leaves. And you're at your own home with a baby. I've just given birth, and I can remember looking at my husband and just saying, what do we do now?
Yeah, because what happens now?
You know, you know, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was terrified of holding babies before I had kids. Like, if they would come into my previous job where I worked, I'd be like, I'm not holding that baby. They are tiny, fragile, not doing it. You know, just had no experience, had never changed a nappy. So it was like trial by fire because I was just, you know, even my husband had more experience with babies than I had. And so it was just all the things when you come into having a newborn baby that people don't tell you, you know, that you get the whole, make sure you sleep now, you know, that kind of thing. But that's not helpful when you're pregnant. Like, everybody knows that the sleep hits you so hard because, you know, you can't prepare for that.
No, you can't. And you've also got nothing to compare it to. You've never experienced that unless you've been tortured under sleep deprivation.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, this whole new world, you're sleep deprived, you're recovering from birth. So you're in this weird world where you're trying to work out how to learn all these new skills, like breastfeeding. I think any mum will attest that is a struggle sometimes. You know, it certainly doesn't come like straight off the cuff natural. I think because with my midwife, she actually cared. I had postnatal care from her, so she would come up until 6 weeks after the birth. For the first, you know, week, I think she came every day, and then it was once a week or that kind of thing. And I think if I hadn't had her, I would have given it up because I found it so challenging. You know, it hurts sometimes. You know, you've already got so much on your plate. To have that person with me saying, you're doing amazing, you know, like, just keep persevering, like, everything's looking great, you just got to keep trying, keep doing what you're doing. And then it clicked and we got it. But if I hadn't had her, I would have been like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, I've got no clue. So once you kind of, you know, I just kind of bumbled my way through. You know, me and my husband had no clue, you know, just like most families, we just kind of did what we did, made it through. But the biggest challenge I had with my first son was sleep. He just did not, he was allergic to sleep. So it was a long, long time before we got a full night's sleep. And that was just so challenging because I fell pregnant with my second son. When my first son was only 1, he was a bit of a, okay, we're doing this. Surprise. So I had a really young son with a newborn baby. And that was kind of the turning point for me because the first time around, everyone's so excited. It was the first baby in both my families. People bring food. People want to see the baby. We had it feels like a lot of support. But with the second baby, people are like, oh, you know what you're doing. You're fine.
I know.
You got it. And I didn't hear from really anyone. So I was, my husband had.
It's harder. You've got 2 children.
Yeah, because you kind of like, oh, I remember this is how we do this baby stuff. But you don't get the luxury of sitting on the couch and beautifully breastfeeding the days away. Your toddler's tearing up the house over here and screaming because he's, hungry, and you're like,
and they've found some scissors and
yes, found some scissors, like, chasing the dog. It was just a totally manic experience, and that really contributed to my postnatal depression. I was just 110% not coping. And even when I kind of was like, I'm finding this so hard, it's just really, I'm struggling here. People would just kind of go, I know, right? It's hard. And I'd be like, oh, like that took so much for me to say I'm struggling, and I was just not getting anything.
And it's just brushed off.
Yeah, because they're
we all find it's hard. Yeah.
Oh, back when I had my baby, I found it really hard too, and I'm like, I'm drowning here. Like,
and I'm actually asking for help.
So it was just this scary, dark time, and I didn't, I really just mourned for that period of time when he was a real little baby, because when I look back now, I just feel so much like sadness that I didn't have the same kind of warm bubble feeling that I had with my first son, because I just didn't know how to advocate for myself. I still, even going through it the first time, didn't know enough to really just say, hey, I need you to do this for me. And having the strength to just be, I really need you to do this for me. So it's
we're afraid to ask for help. We don't know how to ask for help.
And it's a real stigma, because we're meant to know, that's the culture of today. You just get on, you're independent, you do it, You can't sometimes when you're a mum. You need, I kept a journal. I've always religiously kept a journal. And just looking back at that time, all my things that I'm writing was just saying, I wish there was somebody that I could talk to. I wish there was somebody who I could lean on and say, this is so hard, and them just be there for me and talk to me and connect with me and understand, really feel and understand and hear me, what I was going through. And I didn't have that person. And that's why I want to be that person for new mums, because I just think it's, just having that person who's been there, I know is so hard. I'm here for you, giving them the space, holding space for them to really just learn how to be a mum, because that is just a huge transformation. I feel like it's almost like, in a lot of traditional cultures, they had the rite of passage for teenagers and things like that. I think that we have a rite of passage as mothers, but it's not recognised. It's kind of like, you just do what you do and you get on with it, and, and then back to work, and you got to juggle it all. You still got to clean, you still got to cook. There's not that recognition of, hold up, we need a bit of space, a bit of time, like, just feel into this new skin of being a mum, because you don't physically change, you mentally, it's a huge change as well, and it's not recognized. It's not, it's just so, I get so passionate about it.
I know, so do we
yeah, it's true.
So then where do you think a shift happened between, you've talked a bit about the traditional parenting model, and I talk a lot, I harp on about that a lot too. I write articles and articles and articles about it. Where did the shift happen between that and between what we're experiencing today as mothers?
I think that, and I did mention it before, it's a lot about what society expects of us. We're living in a really fast-paced world that requires you to be highly independent and, you know, you got to do it all and, you know, have it all on your shoulders and just get it done. Like, just buck up and do it. So there's that real feel in society of doing that. And you take that on, like, unconsciously when you're thinking, oh, this doesn't feel right, but I just have to push through and I just have to keep doing it. So there's that reluctance to ask for help because we do still have support networks, but they're not, you know, we don't live in a village with, you know, our mum a stone's throw away, or, you know, we don't have
aunties and cousins and
you know, because in the traditional support network, you're from a young age highly involved with birth. You know, if you have a baby, your sister might be there. So she knows, she's kind of seeing all these, you know, oh, this is what you do, and learning by seeing other mums and being involved, and, you know, and then they become that person for the other younger generation. Well, we don't have that anymore.
No.
You know, we don't see babies. We're not really involved in that way. So our first experience with a newborn is generally our own. And so we just have to kind of be proactive about our support networks and that kind of way, because it's just, you know, in this day and age, we have to be more conscious about it and build it. Because a lot of the, you know, like, we live in our own houses, we don't really know our neighbours most of the time.
Totally.
It's a very digital connection. So, like, you know, a lot of where you might ask your neighbour, like, what's going on? Like, my baby's doing this, what's the go with that? Well, you're asking Google, or you're on Facebook saying, what's going on, you know? And so it's amazing because you have that resources right there at the touch of your fingertips, but you're missing that
human
facial
connection,
expression, you know, you're missing the warmth and real connection of somebody sitting next to you saying, you're doing a great job, like, don't worry about it, you know.
And I suppose too that makes me think too, you know, you're asking Google, you're asking someone in a mum's group on Facebook, they can't see the tears running down your face, can they?
No.
You know, you ask a question, you put a smiley face emoji at the end of it. You know,
and then if you put a symptom into Google, well, every time it tells you worst
fatal
case
error.
scenario.
You're dying.
Go to the hospital. There is something wrong. So there's just been a disconnect in that way. You know, that we're in a society that doesn't have as much face-to-face time, but we're also, when we are face-to-face, having that kind of unconscious step back of being like, fuck this, I'm amazing, you know, even, you know, like Instagram perfect life. You know, you're seeing all these perfect photos, and, you know, your mum's group's putting up all these photos, and then you meet up with them. You don't want to be that one person who's saying, my baby doesn't do this, I'm wrecked and I feel terrible, even though probably all the other mums are feeling that way. We've put up this barrier and don't want to, you know, we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid to be that, you know, it's so hard. And you're doing all of this on, you know, the biggest recovery of a physical, you know, that most people would have had. You've sleep deprived, you know, you've got a million trillion things running through your brain, and we're asking them to do all of this as well. So it's just, it's huge, it's hard. So I think that support networks, it's not ever going to go back to that way.
No.
But we have to be proactive about creating our own support networks. So, you know, online communities and Facebook are great, but just to take them with a pinch of salt sometimes. And, you know, if you're feeling yourself feeling judged, or when you're looking at it feeling angry, well, that's not working. But there are great mums groups that get organised now in Australia. I know, especially, you know, if you have a baby, you normally get organised to go to a mums group, and I have so many friends who have just met lifelong buddies because they are all in the same boat and they're all going through amazing. But at the same time, you might not gel with the people in your mum's group. There's just find another one. There are so many other places out there for mums who are kind of on the same wavelength as you, but it's also about finding what kind of a mum you are and what kind of a person, you know, that you connect with. But I think that when you're in the planning process, I'd like to see more thought given, like when you're pregnant, to planning that after period. So say you've got family and friends, try and do a brainstorm and just be like, who out of my current network would I feel comfortable having around me at this time? My mum, you know, my sister, mother-in-law, best friend, and actually ask them for what you want and say, I'm going to need you. I want to lean on you. Can you be this person for me?
And of course they're going to say yes.
Of course they're going to say yes. But we don't ask because we think we have to be this strong person who does it all. And a lot of the time when you're pregnant, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what you're in for. So it's just, I think if we can do that, we can bring back more of a feeling of that support network. Yeah.
And what can we, the rest of us, be doing, you know, to help our friends who have new babies or our family members who have new babies? I suppose is that tricky. You don't want to be the intrusive know-it-all. I did like this. I didn't like this. I didn't like this. How can we support the new mothers?
I think the best thing to do, and once I had my babies, I did this for all my friends. I did who had babies after, because I was the first out of my friends group to have a baby. So afterwards, all my ones who came after me, I did a big hookup. So I did spag sauce, just little whatever that they can pop in the freezer, like a whole bag full. You don't even have to knock on the door. Just pop it by their door, send them a message and say, there you go. There's a little care package for you. And that will make just a huge difference. I think like I didn't want to think about cooking and anything like that. It's just those little ways that you can take a little bit off the mum's plate. So not coming in and saying, you really should be trying this, or you should be really doing this. Just take the baby and say, go and have a shower. I've got this. Take 20 minutes, have a nap. I've got it sorted. Can I take your toddler out for a play? I'll swing by, pick him up, so you can have some time. Those little things make all the difference. So
I remember when we had our eldest, who's now 8.5, and my mum did that exact thing. She made us all of these meals, like lasagnas and all sorts of meals, and it was just in the freezer, and we lived on that for like the first 2 weeks, and it was just so good because my husband was tired too, and between the two of us, it's like we're both half dead, and just to be able to go, here's dinner, that was absolute gold.
It's a lifesaver because you're just taking one less thing that they have to think about. It's just there. They don't have to worry about it. Another thing is, instead of baby gifts, maybe hire a cleaning service or as a gift certificate, or if they've got a dog, have a dog walker come around and take the dog out. Just taking more off the mum's plate and dad's plate, because you're right, they are so tired too. And I think it's hard sometimes we put so much pressure on our partners to be that full support network. Like if your partner is a male, they've got no clue what you're going through. Like love them dearly, they try, but they can't understand what you're going through as a mum because it's a totally different experience. And yet we're saying to them, like, you got to be my number one person. And that causes a lot of clashes. Because, combine that with sleep deprivation.
I know.
World War III. Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Rhiannon, for joining us today. That was a really, really valuable and valid conversation. And I think, that we all would have been able to take a lot out of that. If you're interested in finding out more about Rhiannon's support service, Bloom Post-Natal Services, I will link her details for her website and social media accounts in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you check out the other videos on our channel.